I think one reason why the insides wouldn't match the outsides is because the person, the insides, want to be doing something carnal, like, I don't know, being lazy and eating McDonald's or whatever. The inside person wants to do all the pleasurable stuff. But the inside also wants the pleasure of being recognized as like a really stalwart or like reputable person, someone who doesn't engage in the carnal behaviors that they really want to be doing. So to me, that's like, seems like the most common cause of insides not matching outsides, where your behavior does not match what you act, or like what you say doesn't match what you do, kind of thing. I guess when it happens that what you say doesn't match what you do, it's typically a case of the insides not matching the outsides, because when you talk a big talk, you can't walk the walk because it's hard to do. A lot of that stuff's hard to do. So if you talk about patience, for example, and you want to be recognized for having the virtue of patience, because that's really pleasurable. It's really pleasurable when people praise you and have that attention and that, ooh, glory, just like, you're being praised. You're accepted. You're loved. Maybe this is the only form of love that you know about. So, to get that at all costs, maybe you make it a case where your insides don't match your outsides. Yes, you want to be recognized for being gloriously patient. It looks so cool and so satisfying when other people are recognized for their patience. People just love them, right? So for love and acceptance, I also will cultivate patience. So if you cultivate patience, well, I mean, it could work. You can still cultivate patience, but say you're also really carnally minded and you don't want to actually put in the work to cultivate patience. So instead of taking steps back, taking breaks, thinking about things, it's just like you want to be impulsive and push full steam ahead, maybe complain that things aren't happening fast enough. And when you complain, someone who's working on patience would be striving to not complain that things are taking too long. And so then if someone were to call you out on that, you might be like friendly toward them, like, oh, thank you for calling me out on that. That's something I'm working on, right? No, pride, teachable, humble. Because if you don't have humility, you're just learning all that. Just, I don't know how, because you're not hearing any feedback from others. You're just pridefully unteachable. That's like the definition of pride, right? Or just one of the indications of pride is unteachable. So yeah, I think one indication that someone's insides don't match their outside is that their word doesn't match their deed. Now, there is the case of people who so strongly need that situation to never happen where people notice their word not matching their deed, because they are being phony. I think the more you are being phony too, the more you like demand that people do accept that your word match your deed, even when it's a lie. Because I think it's often the case that our words don't match the deeds. It's really easy to know this stuff and really hard to actually do it. So in the case of getting rid of pride, for example, really easy to talk about, really easy to recognize, really hard to get rid of. And what are the practical applications for getting rid of pride? Well, Carlos Castaneda spells out a few in Journey to Ixtlan. With, it's like the first several chapters. It's all, I think, all the chapters before not doing. It's just kind of like practical everyday stuff you could just do. You can't just do. It's actually really hard to do. Anyways. Okay. We need to stop this nonsense. So, okay, stuff like losing self-importance. Okay, that seems like the major one. Okay, great. That seems a lot like how pride is described. It's being like better than other people, or like always knowing the right thing. I don't know. There's a lot of things, but self-importance seems to be like, well, that seems like it would fit. Don Juan goes on to describe self-importance as also having self-pity. You know, just focusing on the self. Learning how to act in ways that are completely self-unimportant. Like regarding yourself as an equal to plants and animals and all living things. I'm not trying to scold. I sounded scolding. Just, I was thinking about like understanding plants as individuals. A lot of times we go through a neighborhood or whatever and we see trees planted in a row and it's just generic tree. Like Legos or something. It's just generic tree, house, car, you know, generic car. But the trees, the plants, they're not generic like cars. It's not like there's like they're not, I don't know. They're unique individuals. Aware and experiencing individuals. They're experiencing an experience. It's going to be unlike our experience. It's going to be different. But it's an experience, and do they have a receptor to sense us and our emotions? I think Don Juan said, yeah, the trees can understand you with your emotions. Hey, can you sit? Sit. So, I don't know. And I was thinking, like, the whole reason I got that idea was because of the Don Juan stuff. I think might be chapter 3. Chapter 3 pulls out in my head. I think chapter 3 is losing self-importance. I don't know. So, sit. Hey, come on. I don't know. She just talks about a time talking about plants. Talking about plants is unique individuals, basically. Talking about plants as equals. Talking about like forces that move men and animals. Reasons why you should act with unbending intent. And if you say you're going to do something, you should do it. Also, if you say something is in your heart and you understand a concept, way better that you understand it. Because that's just going to pass you by if you're just lying all the time and you just don't get the real picture of her. Knowledge is power, and some kinds of knowledge you can only get by acts. Acts such as losing self-importance, using death as an advisor, that kind of thing. So that's some practical, or just like a different way to think about ways of getting rid of price. I think the problem is most people are kind of just bored and exhausted from hearing the same thing taught in the same way too many times, and so it's lost its meaning. It's made the rounds so many times. People are just saying stuff now. People are just saying the words, just repeating the words, the story, the line. Like, what is faith? Faith is things hoped for, which are not seen, which are real, nevertheless, And it's just kind of like words that we say. We don't really understand what it means. Oh, faith means go to the temple and stuff, And it does. But I think those things can get lost in the culture and lose a lot of their truth. It can help you understand faith, but you need to also understand truth. And like what that means in real life, not just a lot of good words. One time I was listening to a podcast and like, oh, it's just word salad. It's word salad. He's just really good at word salad. I'm like, well, let's hear this word salad. Like, what is he really good at? Like, I want to hear this. I want to hear if like what he's saying makes sense, or if it is just kind of out there. Just kind of, it's a lot of conjecture and speculation. Anyway, they played a clip and then they were like, see, nobody could even understand what that even means. It just doesn't even mean anything. And I remember they're going, what? Like, it does. It means something. Like, I remember thinking, like, I understood what he was talking about. And that just made me think, I'm super, super smart and so superior. No, I don't know. I don't know what I think. It's weird to me. I don't understand why that didn't make sense to them. I mean, it's like, is it the Tower of Babel? Is that how the Tower of Babel went down? Where it was just kind of like a mind block even? Because I know I get mind blocks sometimes where I swear I put my keys down right here, look all around, I look where I think I put them, I look all around, I go around, I do some other stuff, I'm looking in other places, I come back, and they're there where I was just looking. It's like my mind was just blocked them. They say our minds filter out, like all that stuff, I think that's true. So when I say mind block, it could just be my mind, for whatever reason, is filtering that bit out. It's like, not important. I know you say you're looking for keys, but you're not that focused, so we're not even going to see them. I don't know. It could be a lot of stuff, but like for some reason, the mind gets blocked out. But maybe, could the mind get blocked out for language? Or just even if you got where you couldn't speak anymore, what if you got so you just couldn't understand? Like, I don't know, because there's a couple parts of understanding language, isn't there? Like the brain and body are like I would say the brain is part of the body. I'd like to stop considering like brain different from body. I think what's different from body is consciousness. There's the stuff, and then there's a thing looking at the stuff. And I think the thing looking possibly is the stuff, but it's like pure awareness, Hey, stop. Sit. So like, come. The pure awareness, and then like the temporal stuff, the things, the body, the toys, the garbage can, the light, the dog, like whatever. But does the dog have a consciousness? It's a part of the awareness, I would guess. Anything that's alive may be part of the awareness, but anything in existence, sit. anything in existence likely. Come. I don't know. It's almost like the dream and the dreamer. It's like the stuff is the dream and we're the dreamer. I think that idea's been thrown around before. It's a pretty good one. It's a pretty good idea. That's a pretty solid idea, and I think it matches with other ideas pretty well. I think it might not be the whole story. I think the whole story would be ridiculous. Like, it's not something we could comprehend. And people are like, well, that's just evidence that people are just saying this stuff because they don't really know. I think they really know. I've seen stuff I don't fully comprehend about consciousness. I don't understand, like, what's exactly happening or what it means or, like, what's going on. There's been very weird times in my life where things are just, like, not happening as they consistently have in the past, you know? So I don't know, sometimes in profound ways, and sometimes I'll have deep epiphanies that are super profound that I can't remember later, or I don't know, just all kinds of stuff where I can believe that consciousness and awareness is just at some level, at God's level, at pure awareness, it's weird and complex and something that we just can't wrap our minds around. Something that is actually in existing, but that is not something like we can understand through the filters we have with the brain and body. Like, it's like a filter. The brain and body, it's a filter. There's all this stuff going on all the time right now. We know about radiation because it's like, no, it's everything is here that we see. Not really. There's like other kinds of stuff here too. We just don't see. We don't see the airs having consistency. It might that we just filter out because we don't need to see it. There's like all kinds of stuff that's going on that we don't even know. Our brain, like, we're just a big filter. So it goes to the eyes, it filters the light, and then we see certain spectrums of light. You know, we filter this little narrow band, the visible spectrum. It's like we call it the visible spectrum because it's visible to us, but it's a spectrum. A spectrum of what? A spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. We just happen to be able to interpret some of the bands as what? Useful and pretty. Like, there could be more information in the colors than we know, and there's likely other bands that affect us that we don't see, like radiation. You know, we know that. Like, stop. Hey, stop doing this. Reese. All right. Oh no. So anyway, we could be having any number of experiences here, and we're having this one. And could you see other stuff if you just lived a different lifestyle? Yes, yes. That's what Don Juan's saying. And we notice that with things like drugs, our brains like receive slightly different information. We call it hallucination because it's not a shared experience. But if everyone were on that band, would there be shared experiences? I would say likely. Have people been on that band before? Just naturally? Maybe. Who knows? Don Juan talks about when the baby's born, everyone hooks their attention and shows them what to perceive, shows them what's important, shows them what to say. Not what to say, but shows them how language works, shows them what we do. We kind of just did language. Language isn't inherent to humans. If all humans stopped talking, how fast would language disappear from the earth? Because doesn't a child need to hear language before the age of 5 in order to talk? I've heard that feral children found who have been, where they didn't hear language before 5, can't learn to speak. It just doesn't make sense. So is that just kind of like an aberration? Like our pattern of communication that's so crucial to our way of understanding and living, it's like, where did that come from? I think we would build it back if we just stopped communicating and the kids just grew up just kind of indicating, grunting and indicating for things, maybe like making certain sounds that then they'd have like common sounds together, Eventually the language would probably build back up, but how long would it take for the language to build up a conversation about God? Or I think morality would come up pretty quick, because you'd have to figure out you teach your kids how to behave, and it's like, well, why do we have to behave this way? And then you have to come up with reasons. And if you don't have any reasons, then why are you requiring them to behave that way in the first place? So you come up with reasons, and they tell you you're wrong anyway. But no, you come up with reasons. So there's ways you want people to behave, but it might just be people would just behave the way their mothers wanted them to behave, and people would get along with each other just what they could get away with, just getting stuff to eat, Would people even understand to think about, is it right or is it wrong to kill for food? Like, say your neighbor had some really good food, and you're hungry, and your whole place is hungry, all your clan, your people are hungry, and you might just, if you didn't have anybody telling you concepts of killing is bad and what does bad mean, I don't know, then you might just the natural reaction would be just attack them. If you're bigger than them, of course, just attack them, get that food, go on with your day, right? I don't know. It's interesting to think, because in 1984, that was an interesting concept. He was taking away words to take away meanings from people. If you control the words and you control the meanings, you can take meanings away from people. And that's why you're not supposed to use God's name in vain, coincidentally. I'm pretty sure it's because just God's name in vain. We say that so often. Don't take God's name in vain. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. And it's just like when people just say swearing. It's swearing. It's like, I'm pretty sure the word vain means empty, and you're making God's name empty. So if you ever say God's name that when it means anything but what it means, you are making it not have any meaning at all. And when you are just repeating, like, I mean, it's going to be offensive. I'm just going to say it. Like, it happens. It's when you repeat, name of Jesus Christ, amen. 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 Name of Jesus Christ. Name of Jesus Christ. It's just some sounds you say. It's like the Pledge of Allegiance as a kid. It's just like, pledge allegiance to the flag. Like, pledge allegiance to the flag. It's just like this cadence. It's just like sounds. It doesn't have any meaning. You made it empty. You turned it empty. Look what you're doing. Sure, you're not using those swear words, but you're doing it. You're doing it. You're not thinking about it. So, like, and then that's where you see, like, are you humble, teachable, thinking about that stuff? You're prideful, vengeful, want to shut me up, want to tell me how wrong I am. That's not really what's going on. It is going on. It's going on sometimes. And that little code word in the King James Version, we translate it, we say the sounds Yahweh, because that means more than God, right? Because that definition has been kept secret and pure. So we don't just use Yahweh willy-nilly, Jehovah willy-nilly. What is the meaning of those words? I don't know if I should say what I know. That's so weird. It's like, have they been hidden so long? I feel like they're not hidden. I feel like I read this in the Bible or something. I read it somewhere. It was very obvious. So I don't feel like it's a secret knowledge. It could be very secret, though. And this is like the most secret of all secret knowledge. God's name. They will know my name, right? Do I reveal the name? Because what if people have to discover the name on their own? How did I hear the name? I read it. It helped me to really understand things. It made a lot of sense. Maybe just knowing the name, like saying the words. Blah, blah. His name is blah, blah. It's like, but you have to know his name. You have to know what it means. Like, okay. So, and there's no faking that. Blah, blah. Okay. What are you doing in your life that blah, blah, is making any kind of sense? Like, this isn't looking like you know what that means. Like, you're not hearing his voice, are you? You're just kind of saying words. Like, okay, I'll tell you the name. I read this. I think I read it in the Bible. I'm pretty sure YWHW means I am. I think it literally translates to I am. And when Jesus says, I am that I am, or something like that, like, are you him? I am. I don't know, just like, I am. Okay. I read the Bible in jail in my early 20s. I think I turned 21 in jail. So it was around 2021. And before that, so I started off life as loosely Christian. And hey, okay, so start off life as loosely Christian. Did some like Clan of the Cave Bear stuff. I did the clan religion for a little while. That was interesting and earthy. And then moved to the Don Juan stuff. And then kind of moved between clan and Don Juan stuff for a while. The clan stuff kind of always stayed with me. I don't remember it now, but I probably have habits from it. And then the Don Juan stuff and somewhat church stuff, like somewhat Christianity mixed in there. I was a bit interested in Mormon Christianity as well, church Christianity, LDS Christianity, and regular Christianity. And yes, they're different. Like, stop saying, well, we're the only ones because we have Christ in our name. No, you're not. No, you're not. There's the Reformed Church of Christ. There's lots of churches with Christ in the name. I think there's a community of Christ in my town in Arkansas anyway. So stop with that. And also, you're not the same Christian because your doctrine is fundamentally different. That's okay, but you have to, like, why don't you acknowledge that? That just seems like so obvious. It's like, we're exactly the same. It's like, we're not. We're very different. Okay, so, anyway. Okay, so dabbling in Christianity, because also I did a bit of girls' camp as a teenager, and that was pretty impactful. And then, like, with the church, I forgot. Like, I lost all that during the rest of my adolescence, but I remember early in my adolescence, like 12, I had a really strong testimony of the church. I had an intensely peaceful feeling around church. And when I'm all by myself, without worry, without anything to tell me anything, if I just my pure authentic self, just my pure self, and I'm just openly here and openly just being, wondering, not worrying about conforming or anything, just what would I do? And I do have a really peaceful feeling with the church. So there's that. So I remember having a very strong testimony of the peaceful feeling I had, but that I forgot about that pretty quickly after having it. Anyway, but that impacted my philosophy. And then there was the Don Juan stuff, and then it was headlessness. Headlessness was when the door blew wide open. Like, headlessness, this was after years of pondering the Don Juan stuff. Let's see, 10, I think I got into headlessness at 17. It might have been 16. I think it was 17. So 6 or 7, maybe 18, but I'm pretty sure it was 17. It could have been 8. No, it could have been after high school, but it probably was in high school. I don't know. It's around there anyway. So I had quite a few years of, like, pondering the Don Juan stuff. And even though I was a kid, I was a smart kid. And even though I was a kid, I feel like being a kid actually gave me kind of an advantage because I didn't have all the stuff in place. Like, I started off with a little bit of a different perspective. So it helped me to make jumps that people who are completely immersed in the cultural perspective can't make as easily. So, and my dad really encouraged me to be somewhat rebellious. He used to call me, like, he would just laugh and, like, jokingly call me his little SHIT. And he used to say the word, and it was, like, bad, you know, it was, like, bad to say, like, you can't say that and about your kid. And it was just, like, it was just really, like, fun. He was just, like, praising me basically for being a stink, like an imp, kind of just being impish. And it was just kind of like, and then he'd start to spell it because then I wouldn't know what he's spelling, but of course I knew exactly what he was spelling. Anyway, it was just kind of this game, and he'd always, not a lot, but a bit when I was little, he used to say that, and it was just like pride in his eyes, you know, hey, you little SHIT, come here. So I was doing something, like, I mean, not destructive, but, like, getting my way in some, like, roundabout, sneaky, conniving, intelligent way, you know. I don't know. Maybe not that. Maybe other things, just being naughty. But here's the thing, though. He encouraged me to be a little bit rebellious, and so it was easy for me to shirk and shrug off all the conventions of what the other adults in my life were telling me that I had to be doing in order to gain and achieve happiness. I didn't escape all of it, of course. There's tons of it still, but a good deal of it I was able to. And plus, with the Castaneda stuff encouraged me to do even more. It was like, okay. And then the headless stuff, oh man, like that just made everything make sense. After the headless stuff, it was like, it's I am. It's the I am thing. That's the whole thing. And it was headlessness in conjunction with hallucinogens as well. I do think that the plants and like the plant properties have helped humans understand different bands of the spectrum of consciousness. And just the act of sheer doing that opens your eyes, like your unconscious eyes, just opens your body eyes up to the idea that this world ain't what it looks like, and you could be having different experiences. Very different experiences. And so, I don't know, it's kind of fun to do. Humans really like to do that stuff. I think all animals do. It's like experiencing different things, novelty, I don't know. But I think, okay, so Don Juan uses that stuff also as tools, because some types of knowledge are gained only when doing specific actions. So sometimes you can only gain the knowledge of doing plumbing by actually doing plumbing, and you can only gain the knowledge of laying brick when you're a bricklayer, when you lay brick. Like, I don't know, I have the concept of how to lay tile, but I've never done it. So I think I could do it, but I mean, there might be some things I don't know. There might be some trial and error, right? Like, you don't really know until you go. Once you go, you know. And so then you can say, I went there and I know about it and I did it. So certain types of knowledge, like plants and hallucinogens, are not just pleasure for fun. Just like, oh, this will be a new thing to do. This will just be like, just kind of a recreational activity, just kind of something fun to do, like going to the movies. You could use it as a tool too. Like, you don't just have to go to the movies. You could actually like learn something and do something with it. You have to be careful though. Like Don Juan said, often he had to pull Carlos back from the brink of death like multiple times because he was doing crazy stuff. He's doing crazy stuff in real life. But like, I think his body was shutting down because his consciousness was going in bizarre places that his body couldn't support. He didn't have enough knowledge to know how to support his body. Power, knowledge is power. He didn't have enough knowledge of understanding how to support his body properly during those extreme states of consciousness. And so Don Juan had to use his consciousness, his pure intent, to hold him and keep him safe. And so if you go down some of those weird paths, you might just get lost in aberration. I think that's the scary part about the Don Juan stuff, is that I believe it's real, but people can do some weird stuff with it, and people can get lost in aberration, and likely people are doing stuff from the book in segments or sections, and then they're like getting benefits from it in some way and not understanding really the full picture because they don't know the Don Juan stuff, because they don't see the whole picture. They only see the segment, like the ally situation, right? So I think that's a confirmation to me that the Don Juan stuff is real, because there's some similarities in the ally situation to other things we hear about. So I think like there could be room for bad stuff to happen, to people, but like life is dangerous, right? Life is inherently dangerous. It's dangerous. Everything's dangerous, and we're born to die. It's an eating and death cycle. It's an awareness experience. It's the chance to experience awareness in this way, and these interactions in this way. And like, Don Juan says, why would we waste it in some stupid mood? And it's true. I used to write letters about that all the time. I used to write these things. I'd write these dissertations in high school because I just so desperately wanted people to know about this stuff. It was so good. It's just like what I do on Facebook now, or like whatever what these lectures are. This is what that was, is just trying to get the word out, right? Talk about it in high school. And I would write notes, 1-page notes, and try to pass them around. I'd copy them and they'd be the same message. And one of my favorite messages was, you don't have time for this stupid mood, you fool. Like, none of us do. Death is coming for us all. We don't have time to waste in some stupid mood. Why are you wasting this moment? It could be your last. It could be your last. You don't know. There is no guarantee. You've gone living for 1 minute more. There really isn't. Your heart, like, your body is so complex. It could just stop working. Like, it's organized and complex, and it's very, very, very intricate. All the individual cells have to be working together. It's a community. It's a huge, giant cooperative undertaking to sustain your consciousness in this form. It's pretty cool. And your consciousness almost is sustaining it, because it on its own really might be too complicated to just support itself, like, as a machine. It really might need the consciousness to kind of glue it together, because it might be really messy at the basement bottom level. And I think that's what the quantum physicists are saying, is that we think things are really orderly. Everyone's like, ooh, God is orderly, nature is ordered. But the basement bottom level, it's looking really messy and, like, yeah, yikes, scary. How is it all holding together? And perhaps, I don't know, it's possible consciousness itself is holding it together. That it doesn't really matter what we do. I think I heard in a mind-body medicine class that the practice of spreading out gopher entrails to diagnose medical illnesses and to maybe treat with, like, other things. Like, there was just this weird diagnostic process with, like, rodent entrails or something like that, or just, like, the diagnostic processes in other cultures around medicine, she was saying, it has about the same impact of, like, curing people as Western medicine. And it's like, no, how could that be? I think basic hand washing is the number one thing that, like, saved people from disease, pretty much. I mean, we have antibiotics, but the placebo effect is so powerful. I mean, think about it. I just saw something where people are like, or it was like an ad or something, and someone was like, I just want the placebo, it works. It's like, that's interesting to recognize yourself so much. You know that it's lying to you. You know it's a placebo on, like, the outside, but, like, your inside still thinks that it's real. So it's, like, cool with that. And then just, like, basically that means your body is fixing itself. It means your consciousness is fixing your body. If you think a pill is fixing you and then you actually get fixed you're not actually taking medicine. You're not doing anything. You're just eating some sugar, which supposedly is bad for you, right? You're eating sugar and then you're getting fixed with whatever it was. And it has a pretty high effectiveness rate. It's pretty effective, like, pretty dang effective. So that tells me that it is like what Jesus says. It's by your faith. Your faith made you whole. Your faith healed you. It's not me, it's your faith. God healed you. There is none good but God. Stop praising me. There is none good but God. And faith healed you, and the placebo healed you. The placebo healed you. The placebo did not heal you. It was sugar. You healed you. Your consciousness is holding your body together, probably. If you feel good inside all the time, you might feel better in life. Your body might be more vigorous and youthful. You might have a little bit more spry in your step, more spring. Your consciousness is holding your body together. Maybe it doesn't really matter what you do. What kind of oil you put on your skin and herbs you drink and antibiotics you take. I think it has some effect, though. I think you could cause, like, physical damage to the body where the consciousness couldn't heal it, but maybe it could. Maybe it just doesn't believe it could, like Jesus said. That's pretty wild. Like, how do you train your body to believe your consciousness? How do you just believe and let go and let God, right? Be still and know that I'm God. It's one of them, I bet. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Know I am. Know it. Know it right now. Just know I am. Just know it. And you'll see. It's so profound. It's the easiest thing, I think. And the headless stuff is where they say, or someone said, there's some kind of thing in the headlessness, like, the truth of the whole world is hidden right beneath your nose. So, of course, nobody can see it. You can't see it. It's right beneath your nose. Your nose. Oh my gosh, the headlessness is so good. It helps you lose pride. The headlessness helps you lose pride too, because you realize it's profound. I am is profound. And that's also what I mean when I think consciousness is so deep. Consciousness awareness is so weird. You couldn't understand it, because when I think of the I am thing, I know it's profound. Every time I think it, it's just like, wham. I remember the first time I realized, like the first few times, when you're just kind of walking along minding your own business and it just hits you that you exist, and it's super weird, and it's just like, oh, I exist. What is this? That's so weird that I exist. It's weird. You know, that stuff's so cool. It's just so like bizarre. It's like funny, and it's just like cool, and you just have this spark sense of joy just like bubbling up inside that you can't quench after that. It's just like, I am. It's a pretty good name for God. And people will misuse it, though. That's the thing. It has to stay hidden, because when somebody's like, I am. Oh, I am. I am. I love you. Oh, I am. 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 And then everyone's like, I am. I am. How great. How great. And nobody really knows I am. People just like, not God I am, Sam I am. It's just knows that when I say I am, I mean you are. I am, but I don't know that you are, because I am. You are. Let's see. I am me. I am you to everyone but me, kind of thing. Like literally the words you. I will never talk to myself as a you. The words matter. The language does matter. I will talk to myself as a you, but that's an awkward thing to do. It splits yourself up. You're one whole thing. Multifaceted, yes, but one whole thing. One hypocritical giant whole thing. One collection, organized intent. Holding it all together. Holding it all so tenuously together. You just unravel it any second. That's why death's an advisor, because you could just literally unravel. Like your consciousness could just lose hold, lose grip. There you go. And anyway, your consciousness is not bound to this incarnation, right? Yes, witness and experience this. Don't fret and panic. Take ye therefore no thought for the morrow. For the morrow thou shalt take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. And also, know ye not what ye shall eat, or take ye no thought for what ye shall eat, and what ye shall drink. If you really want to be reckless, try loving your enemies. I feel like that's reckless, because like it's not the safe options. Oh, well, love your enemies in church, and then during the week, you have to live your real life. You can't go loving your enemies all the time. That's suicide. he that will lose his life shall find it. He that shall try to save his life shall lose it. He that shall save his life shall lose it, and he that will lose his life shall save it. The recklessness. The Jesus stuff was so, I don't know. So wild, so different. But we had the language for it, Had to build that up over a long time as humans, to build up enough language to be able to talk about these complex ideas. But I think as an animal, if you didn't have language, if you would just stop talking and let the children just be animals, like, we're just done with this business. Like, I'm so sick of this language just mucking everything up. Let's just start over and we're just not going to talk. And like, we can just start over. And the kids can just like take it from here. We'll just reset. Everyone will stop talking. All the babies born will just not have language, and everyone would just be animals. I wonder if we would more intuitively understand I am on a deeper level, because we are here in our thoughts more like a meditative state, because we don't have all these words to be thinking about all the time, all the distractions. I do wonder if that's what it means when Jesus is like, the plants, the animals, they're all singing glory to his name, glory to God, because they all know God, And it's like, if you didn't have language, maybe your whole experience would be interacting with God. One of the ways Don Juan suggests losing self-importance is to stop talking to yourself. If you can be silent knowledge, stop talking to yourself. And it is all one day with God. It is all one big long day. One day. If you never slept, if you didn't have to sleep, wouldn't it be just one big day? Just one big doing, one big happening, just doing the doings. Just going around doing the doings. Just doing one doing after the next. And if you were eternal and immortal, you would just do one doing after the next, wouldn't you? Forever. What would you do with all of that? Where would you go? And why would you do it? I don't know, because you're here. Why not? Might as well be here. Might as well be here than anywhere else. What if you just weren't anywhere? I would rather be here than nowhere. I'd rather exist than not exist, I would say. I'm excited to exist. Existing is cool. And if you don't think existing is cool, you can just drop acid and then you can know existing is cool. And you can like go be headless. If you feel like you don't want to exist anymore, you can go be headless and be reckless. Love your enemies. Try love. Try honesty, Try letting your insides match your outsides, Try letting go a little bit of that pride. Just, you're dead anyway. You might as well do that reckless stuff. Maybe I'll give you a little burst of adrenaline when you do your good deeds in secret, and when you love your enemies secretly. And you don't let your works be seen of men, because you're trying to lose self-importance. You don't want people to be seeing you do the works. You want to be humble about it. You don't want to be even close to thinking of yourself as a good person, because you don't want to be thinking about you. You want to be thinking about the doings and the reality and the consciousness is almost more interesting than just dwelling on your individual worries all the time. Just like your individual looks and attitude and behaviors and talks and just constant focus on yourself all the time. You could be doing other things. And Like, you could be doing other cool things. And yes, life is dangerous. Like, there are some dangerous things you could be doing. Like, there's always inherent danger in everything we do. So there's a risk in every action, and the risk in loving your enemies, there's a risk in that. I don't know if it's any more risky than hating your enemies, though. I mean, from my experience, it's less risky, but I don't know if that ruins it for anyone thinking it's a safe option. And also, I don't want to mislead anyone. It's probably not a safe option most of the time. It's not a safe option, but it's a love-based option. And love-based options are going toward light in life. Love-based options usually tend toward life, and hate-based options usually tend toward death. And so love-based options, I would say, are usually more logically sound and correct, unless you want to die. But if you want to die, why not just be cool? Like, do cool stuff then. Like, why are you wasting your life doing all the weird, dumb stuff? Do cool stuff. Do the stuff you want to do. You might as well live it up. And maybe in doing that, you'll find life is pretty dang weird, and consciousness is pretty dang cool, and awareness is pretty dang cool, and life is also pretty dang sad. But in the sadness, there's also wisdom. So it's bittersweet. Life is very bittersweet. It's not going to be joy all the time, but you wouldn't want it to be joy all the time. Joy all the time would get so old. Boring. It would just be normal, right? I wonder if your consciousness develops a tolerance to things too. It's bored of stuff. I mean, maybe it's going stir crazy in the vastness of infinity all by itself. Who knows? Either way, it likes you. It probably wants to play around, play some tricks, play some games, do some cool stuff, interact. Maybe it's just you in it, interacting throughout infinity, making up games. The consciousness playing with the experience, play and interplay. And just the laws of consciousness. Like, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. Like, this just the laws of consciousness just likely are. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. Your belief or disbelief might affect what you're able to do in life. Like, it might limit you or expand you, but the fact that you exist is just there. There's not anything to dispute. Like, you exist. You better just accept it. Like, the faster you accept that you exist, I mean, the quicker you are on the path, and the more you can experience in consciousness in this life, the more you can understand. Just if you want to understand. If you want to just seek after pleasure, I just think that it's not as fulfilling ultimately. Just pleasure in itself. Sure, everyone likes pleasure. There's nothing wrong with pleasure, but pleasure as a goal in and of itself rarely produces fruits that are like worth that much. I mean, it produces fruits of like addiction. You get to have the thing that you wanted. You get to have that addiction, that like satisfied bodily feeling, but you're not like learning anything. So I think that's why we feel like that satisfied bodily feeling, that's what we're after. That's what people are after. It's like, That's why music about relationships is so popular. If you listen to popular music, any kind of music, listen to things that are on the radio, things people listen to, things people like, things that are trendy, things that are great. It's all about relationships, dating, boyfriend, girlfriend, broken hearts, happy hearts, whatever. It's about relationships, about dating, like dating relationships, about boyfriend, girlfriend, marriages, divorce, the whole gambit of what it means to like sexually reproduce as an organism. It's just a bodily feature. And yes, music that's more profound also has like carnal aspects because we are carnal beings. But we can also do other stuff besides carnality. And also sex is not the only carnality. It's just one part of carnality. It's a very strong part of carnality because we have a very strong pull to genetically like reproduce and to keep it going. But like, maybe it's the strongest pull from the body. But there's other strong pulls like addictions to like food or drugs or laying on the couch, YouTube, those YouTube shorts. That's super addictive. The body loves that. The body would do that to death. Like the body, I don't know. Would it do it to death? I don't think it would do it to death. If I was starving, I would get up and go outside and get something. Or like I would plan. Like I think eating probably has a stronger pull to YouTube shorts. But if food is plentifully available, if food is easy to get, it's just there, we don't have to work at all for food, it's pretty much delivered, it just comes to you, then yes, the YouTube shorts, the movies, the video games, the entertainment, all that entertainment is just like the only thing the body wants to do now. It's all just wallowing in pleasures and stuff. But the problem is when you're wallowing in all that pleasure, you're not learning about philosophy or whatever, and like maybe that's fine, maybe that's part of the awareness that this awareness wants to do. The TV is really cool, like cartoons are cool, we can do a lot more with TV, we can experience a lot more, what is the word, we can experience a lot more, what is it, when you go baptize your dead one in the temple by proxy, you can experience things by proxy through TV. It's kind of cool. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. It's pretty good. I've heard that if you see somebody, something happen to somebody on TV, it's in your brain, like your body is reacting as if it was happening in real life. That's why TV, like with kids, is a little bit dangerous because they also can't like reason out what's going on. They're just like absorbing it. So yeah, I think we equate that pursuit of pleasures though with like less than noble stuff, because usually people that pursue the pleasures like that also a lot of times are doing the undesirable behaviors too, like the stealing, the lying, the cheating, just the annoying stuff that like I don't want to watch TV, I don't want to do the pleasure thing, but I also want to just like have things be nice. I just want to have things be where I left them. I don't want things stolen, taken, mucked around with. Like, I don't know. It just kind of bothers my day. So, and it seems like the pleasure seekers do a lot more of that because they also are so wanting the pleasure so bad. It's like they'll do anything to get it, including ruin your day. So they don't care about you. So like, love your neighbor as yourself. Like, care about others above your pleasures. Care about others' wants the same as your wants. Your want of that drug, you have to care about your neighbor's want of privacy, or like to be left alone or not stolen from. Just your child's need of your smile and acceptance trumps your want of taking out your frustration on them. And so the acts of the carnal man, the natural man, like those more carnal type actions, usually have, like, you can't, well, maybe you could just enjoy, like, eat at McDonald's, not hurting anybody, but like frustration and annoyance, you would like learn to curtail, you'd learn to rein it in. It's being annoyed with somebody is rarely their fault, and it's usually like a carnal act. I would say it's just like a pleasurable thing. It's like, feels good to really be annoyed when like stuff's not going right. It takes a lot of work to reframe and accept and figure out your part in it and what you're going to do next. Instead of just complaining that things aren't going right, that's what the carnal man, natural man wants to do. You figure out what you're going to do next. Just pluck that cubic centimeter of a chance right out of the air. But you can't do that if you're super worried about how you look and your image, how people are going to view you, and you have to look like you're doing forgiveness or whatever, instead of actually working on doing it, because working on doing it takes work. It's hard. So you have that carnal man, so I think that's why people equate pleasures and like pleasurable action and self-indulgence with undesirable behavior. Is it undesirable for the person doing it? Probably. Like, my kids are not happy when they're doing that stuff. I'm not happy when I'm doing that stuff. I'm trying to teach them not to do that stuff because I think it'll make them logically happier. I know I'm happier when I'm not complaining and annoyed. When I just work on not getting annoyed, my life goes just logically better. Instead of trying to fix everyone else around me, if you just would stop being so annoying, then I wouldn't be annoyed all the time. Yeah, no, that's not how we're like, no, there is no way for me to not being annoying, to not be annoying to everyone on the planet. Every action I do is going to be annoying to someone. So therefore it is illogical for you to expect me to always act in a non-annoying way. I'm going to be annoying. It's your responsibility to stop getting so annoyed, or at least to respond appropriately. Taking it out on me would be a carnal act. Yelling or whatever, it's a weak act. It's just what the natural man does, just what an animal does. Just, I don't know. A weak animal. Weak-minded animal. An animal who doesn't know what's going on, who will have a really hard time surviving if things happen that are in the least way distressing or discomforting. Seeking after that pleasure, it makes you kind of weak. If things should happen where food isn't so easily available and just there, and it's going to make you weak unto destruction, because you're going to cannibalize. Maybe literally cannibalize, because you don't know how to do things and there's no infrastructure for that. And there's a lot. And people are going to get all crazy and antsy and anxious and like worried and the whole gambit. So if you cultivate that stuff now, self-denial, self-control, patience, long-suffering, if you cultivate that in times of plenty, then when times get rough, it's a little easier. But if you just cultivate that generally in life, I feel like your life goes better. You have to do self-denial, though. It's hard. So that's would be a case where the insides don't match the outsides, because the pleasurable person wants to continue the pleasure. They don't want to change. They like that thing. They like to be annoyed. It feels good. It feels good. The pleasure stuff feels good. The work stuff doesn't feel good. So in the exact moment, choose what feels good, right? Just always choosing what feels good. And you can live your life that way, and I think a lot of people do. But the problem with that life is that you run into snags later. You'll run into snags that you won't know how to solve, and it'll be worse for you than if you had just done the path of a little bit of self-denial, a little bit of trying to do knowledge and understanding, just a little bit. A little bit of just learning how to read, a little bit every day, and pretty soon you're reading. So I guess that's the thing. Carnality, insides and outsides. One reason why maybe your insides wouldn't match up with your outsides. Symptoms to recognize it. How to more likely get your insides to match your outsides if it's a pride issue, especially. Addressing with compassion a lot of these issues. Not looking at people and scorning and scoffing, because someone farther along the path would never look down and back at their brothers and sisters who were just starting out with scoff and scorn. They wouldn't look down the path at people who were struggling behind them, going, look at those bozos. And you're also struggling there on your little piece of path, aren't you? But you're like, there's people ahead of you on the path. And the more we look down and say, well, look at you, you're really low on the path, aren't you? The more we do that, the more people just kind of give up. And really, don't we want people with us? Don't we want people up there with us on the path? Or do we just want to be up there at the top and everyone else is below? So we are the best, because we don't know any other way to get love. We don't know about any other ways to love or receive love or have love. We just have to be the best. We have to produce. And if you want to know a different way to receive love, you have to try something radical. You have to try to love your enemies. You have to try to not do usury and all this stuff. You have to be attempting it. You have to get into it. Don't just be hearers of the word only, but be you doers of the word. No dang where in the word does it say to go to church on Sunday. No dang where in the word does it to go to any church. He talks about the Sabbath. He talks about Shabbat. He talks about the Jewish stuff. Like, yeah, I don't know if it talks about the churches. Maybe it does in Paul. Maybe it does later on in the Bible. But with Jesus, what Jesus said, like, it's great to go to church. I like to go to church. I just think that understanding first the I am thing, like the meat, the core, it makes the rest of the stuff make a lot more sense. It's focusing on the branchy stuff first, like do your visiting teaching, do your temple, do. Serve others, do the branchy stuff. To have a heart change, I feel like it rarely works. You have to be convicted in your heart. You have to read the scriptures and just like do the stuff in your heart, in your secret places, in your secret. You have to love your enemies in secret. You have to be reckless and wild and free, and you have to act with abandonment. Without that, your acts will lack grace and finesse and power. So the Don Juan stuff makes a lot more sense now. So I've gone from Don Juan to headlessness to, and that's when I read Christianity in jail after headlessness. So I already knew the I am thing. It's like I knew I am before I read the Bible. And then when I read the Bible and saw all the I am references in there, I was like, whoa, this is something here. And then reading it in that context. And so whenever time you see the capital LORD, I think you think of YWHW and you think of I am, and it's like interesting. So Christianity made more sense in terms with already understanding the Don Juan stuff and the I am thing. Mostly the I am thing, I think, made Christianity made sense. And then in this craziest way, Christianity made the Don Juan stuff make more sense. So the Don Juan stuff came back around as to making sense with the background of Christianity. It's like, do we need all these little steps in our lives to understand what's going on? And to what end are we ever going to understand exactly what's going on? No, we're not going to get to the basement bottom of level of reality, but we are going to be expanding awareness and like doing cool stuff.